Hi, this is Debbie, and today I want to share with you a watercolour top tip. I know watercolour can feel intimidating to some people, but the method I want to share and talk about today makes watercolouring more approachable. I love the look of loose watercolouring, but there is a lot of skill in letting go and painting in a loose style. However, a more achievable approach is to tackle the painting in layers. The fancy term for it is glazing, but effectively means putting down layer after layer of paint, each time waiting for the layer below to dry before adding the next one. Today I am painting the lovely Hibiscus Bloom stamp set, which is a 6x8 inch set from Simon Says Stamp's latest release. This is a great image for this technique as there are defined areas to paint, making this blocking and layering approach easier. I have my Fabriano Artistico Extra White Cold Press watercolour card taped to a board to prevent warping, although because I won't be wetting large areas of the paper, this probably isn't necessary, but it's a good habit to get into and better to be safe than sorry, as the old adage goes. I'm using Daniel Smith paints and starting with the lightest layer of paint. With watercolour, as the paints in the main are translucent, the paper acts as the white when mixing colours. And so to get a light green for the leaves, I tested out a dilute mix of undersea green with a touch of quinacridone rose to knock back the green to a more mossy colour. I painted all the areas of the image which would be green with this mix, a light covering of colour over all the leaves and stems. Next I worked out a light pink for the petals using the same two colours, quinacridone rose with a touch of undersea green to muddy the pink a little to fit with my preferred colour palette. Again, I painted all the petals in this light watery mix. I did paint each petal separately and waited for it to dry before painting its neighbour. Theoretically, you could paint the whole flower as a block of light pink, but I find the way the paint dries on each individual petal does help to define the shapes even if you're painting with the same mix. With the base layer down and dry, I started with layer 2 and a slightly deeper mix of the green colour. I painted over each leaf but left the veins so that the lighter first layer was still visible. I did this for all the leaves and also added some shading for the stems. I find it helpful to Google an image of the flower I'm trying to paint and from that interpret the stamped image. Looking at hibiscus flowers, I noticed the frilly edges to the petals and the deep dark centre markings. With this in mind, I built the second layer of pink colour with shading in the valleys of the frilly petal edges, underneath any petals where the edges had turned over, and that characteristic centre markings. With this second layer, the colour is just a shade or two deeper than the first layer, but layering like this means that you can take your time and slowly build the painting up. Mistakes are easily rectified or hidden by the next layer, and so although this method of painting might take longer than a more free-flowing loose style, I find it an easier method overall. I'll play some music now while I continue to build layer on layer, each layer that little bit darker and deeper and richer in colour than the next. I didn't want to overwhelm this image with too much splatter, but felt a light going over with white gouache and then leftover paint wouldn't do any harm. I like to finish with the splatter of water too, which spreads out some of the droplets of paint. Now, I probably should have done this next section before the splatter, but I worked around the droplets in order to add coloured pencil details. This helps add a little more definition to areas, in particular the stigma on the style, pointing out from the flower centre. Once I'd finished faffing with the pencils and adding those final details, I trimmed the panel to be just smaller than an A2 card base. I wrapped twine around the panel 3 times and secured it with a knot on the back before adding foam tape to the back and adding it to a Neenah Desert Storm card base. I finished off with a triangle of embellishments using ice sherbet sequins from Little Things from Lucy's Cards, held in place with Gina K Connect glue, and then Fairy Wings Nouveau Dream droplets. And that completes this card using layers of paint to make watercolouring an image that bit more approachable. I hope you pick up a brush and give this method a try. Okay, I'll leave links in the YouTube description to the products I've used today. I will also have details on my blog post as well as a look at the new release from Simon Says Stamp. I want to thank you for joining me today. I do so appreciate you stopping by and encouraging me to keep sharing these videos. I'll pop a couple more videos up on screen if you want to check those out. Right, I'm off for today, but I'll see you next time.